This is for our second deck profile on the channel. My name's Nicholas, and I have Buster Bladers here. Not just any Buster Blader deck, this is branded Buster Blader, and I feel like this deck will definitely show you the power of the Despias and how basically everything can be splashed into branded. First things first, I'll go into the main deck and then we'll go into the extra. Now, this isn't the most competitive, what's it called, branded version. You can definitely, Despia branded is probably the best one. But I feel like this deck, the Buster Blader lock has never been stronger. And I honestly feel like that this deck can do a lot of great things. So let's get on to the deck profile. First things first, we play our Buster Bladers. Doesn't really matter how many you play. Buster Blader, it's just a vanilla. We all know what Buster Blader does. Well, it's not a vanilla, unlike all the other like Blue Eyes and Dark Magicians. It actually does have an effect. The effect says basically increases the attack for every dragon type monster in your opponent's side of field and in graveyard. So this deck hates dragons. It really does, even though the deck makes dragons, which is kind of counterproductive. But hey, it's the deck, and the lock's pretty strong, so we'll get into it. First things first, Buster Blader is the retrained Destruction Swordsman. You only need one of each. Basically, their effects really don't matter. Their whole point is that you want to get them into the graveyard and then banish them using the traps, which are stupid, to ultimately Buster lock your opponent on their turn. And Despia's ultimately improved that. Now, you're probably wondering why Keeper of the Dragon Magic. Well, Keeper of the Dragon Magic is actually better in this version of the deck than, what's his name, Luber. The reason why is due to the fact that Keeper of Dragon Magic special summons the material by revealing the fusion material and special summoning it onto the field. So basically what this guy says is that when his card's normal summon or special summon, discard one card, which means you play a couple of weird cards like these guys. You can discard them, and then you get to add a polymerization or a fusion normal spell, which includes brand fusion to your deck to hand. So this is also a cheap version of, if you're trying to build Despias, this is a cheap man's Luber. Luber ain't that expensive anymore. I think it's like $20 for the retrain, but still, it's a retrain. Also, he helps you fusion summon himself. So I believe he's a poly. Yeah, he adds himself, and then you can't special summon except fusion monsters for the rest of the turn. He's just a really good card. I used to play him Dark Magicians, and yeah, Keeper of Dragon Magic hasn't changed from being a really good card. Next, we play 2 Fallen of Albaz. This is still branded after all. You have to play Fallen of Albaz, and this guy's just a really good monster. We have a way to special summon him from the hand or from the deck using a fusion deployment, and basically this guy's just super poly on legs. He's just a really great card, great on summoning on your opponent's turn, basically using the end effects of the what's his name, the Titanic Sword and Glory Dragon. I think they can special summon him, and yeah, this is an overall really good card. Next, we have 3 Springlands Kit. You all know what Kit does. It's from the newest from the structure deck. Basically, you can special summon this card if you control a fusion. Then you, on normal or special, so it is also a normal summon, you can add a branded card and then you have to shuffle 1 card back in the hand. That is a sad loss, but sometimes you have a guard in your hand. You just want to get that thing back in deck. And now we go on to hand traps. This isn't, like I said, the most competitive deck ever, so I don't have the most competitive hand traps. But I do have 3 Ghost Ogre, and I do have 3 Effect Veiler. We all know what Ghost Ogre does. Ghost Ogre basically says, hey, your opponent activated a card effect, let's just blow it up. It's a really good card, and yeah, no, it's a light. So we have chaos attributes with this deck. Next, we have Effect Veiler. It's a level 1. It's a tuner. You just discard it, and to get the effects on your opponent's turn. I think Ghost Modern is just a better version of this card, but I like Veiler. It's a cheap card. It's pretty good. Next, we go on to our Buster Whelp, the Destruction Swordsman. This guy is another starter of this deck. Basically, Buster Whelp, the Destruction Sword, says on normal, I believe you can tribute this card, especially on a Buster Blade from hand or graveyard, which doesn't really come up, but the most important part is when this card is normal summon, you can add a Destruction Sword card from your deck to your hand, which is the traps basically. Which I believe, if I remember the combo correctly, one of the other starters and a way to get this guy on the field is full Buster Lock plus Ice Dragon on field, which is nuts. Now we play the one Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. I want to be a Buster Blader deck without the most infamous card in Buster Blader, which is this guy. Should have been on the ban list. He was on the ban list for a little bit until Union Carrier got banned, which I wish he just kept this card banned, and Union Carrier was not some generic card for every deck like Drytron to abuse, but oh well. Destruction Sword says when it's equipped to a card, monster, while this is in the spell and trap zone, your opponent can't special summon from the extra deck. It's basically Scythe Lock on an equipped card. It's really stupid in this deck, and yeah, you can equip this to your Buster Druids and your Fusion. So, great card, evil card. When this card ultimately does end up on the ban list, you know why. Next, we go on to the spell cards. Of course, we have 3 Branded Fusion. The whole deck revolves around this. It's Shaddoll Construct for the Branded archetype. You can't. The only restriction this has is that it locks into fusions for the rest of the turn, which doesn't really matter because you're summoning out your Synchro on your opponent's turn. And I'll get into the Synchro in a little bit. Next, we have 3 fusion deployments. This is a tech card. You can take it out for more hand traps. Basically, I like it as an idea. If you're going second, which the deck doesn't want to do, because it wants to Buster Lock you, the opponent, you can fusion a deployment a Fallen of Albaz, and then super pull on their board without committing to your normal summon. And that's the whole point of fusion deployment. Next, we have is Reasoning. We have a lot of different levels in this deck, and you don't mind milling the Buster Bladers in the graveyard, or the Whelps. You want these guys in grave in order to fusion summon from the grave. Next, we have Foolish Burial. Again, you want these guys in grave. The more the better. 1 for 1. Another way to get this guy on the field without using your normal. I believe it is normal or special. No, it's just normal. I think out of all the cards, I might actually consider cutting this now. And I might have misread this guy. It's only on normal, so 1 for 1 is not that great. Now looking on site, I'll probably change this for an upstart. And then Call by the Grave, of course. Call by is a really good card. It insulates your hands and ultimately makes a, if they have 1 hand trap I lose to, they better have 2 hand traps or I'm Buster Locking you out of this game. Finally, get on to the traps, which this deck does play a lot. And it's probably the reason why this deck isn't as strong as just Branded Despia is, because you rely on a lot of traps. First things first, 3 Trap Trick gets you into your important traps. It's just a really good card. It does lock you into not activating other traps for the rest of the turn, but that doesn't really come up. Next, we have Prolong the Destruction Swordsman. And yeah, let's go on to this. Basically, what this card says, you send a Destruction Sword and a Buster Blader card from your deck to the graveyard, and then you special summon 1 Buster Blader from your extra deck. If I remember correctly, this one either summons out the Fusion or the Synchro. If I remember correctly, this summons out the Fusion, and then Prologue, a memory, special summons the Synchro. Basically, you want to get Prologue and your Branded shit going, because Prologue with Stuff Engraved is a straight Buster Lock. Prologue dumps Destruction Swords memories. Basically says you can discard 1 Destruction Sword cards, but summon 1 Buster Blader monster from your deck. That part doesn't matter because it's engraved. All that matters is you can banish this card from your graveyard and fusion summon 1 Buster Blader shard. Okay, so this one summons the Synchro, this one summons the Fusion. I haven't played this deck in a little bit, so I'm just trying to remember the combo. This one summons the Synchro, this one summons the Fusion. You basically just banish it and you summon out your Fusion for free. The Fusion is so important to this deck. We'll get into him in a second, but yeah. And finally, just for 2 of a Destruction Sword Flash. If you control a Fusion monster that lists Buster Blader as material, banish all monsters your opponent controls. When a card or effect is activated that targets a Buster Blader monster, you can banish this card in the graveyard and get the effects, and you do destroy that card. It's just more protection. It's a board wipe. It's a really strong card. And yeah, that is it for the main deck. Bladers is 40. The only thing I would cut, if you were like trying to make this more competitive, change the hand traps, probably make them more Ash or Imperm, depending on the format. As for 1 for 1, change that to an upstart, you're fine. And as for the fusion deployments, if you don't like that idea, you could just put it as, I don't know, more hand traps. And yeah, that is it for the main deck. Let's go on to the extra. All right, so let's get on to the extra deck. First things first, we play 2 Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. This guy is stupid. Basically, what he says is that he gains attack for every dragon in the graveyard, and he turns all monsters on the field and I believe in the graveyard into dragons, which is really important to the deck. Also, all dragon monsters. No, wait, my apologies. I'm getting the synchro mixed up. So basically, what the fusion says is that all dragon monsters go in face down, or not face down, go in defense position, and they can't activate their effects. And this guy gains attack for every dragon in the grave and on the field. That's what he does. And the lock comes in with this guy right here, Destruction Buster Dragon, the grown-up version of the Buster Whelps. And basically, what this card says, if I'm correct, all opponents' monsters become dragons. So all their monsters on the field are now dragons. And yeah, good luck playing the game when this guy's booskaing you and getting attack for every single one of you. Not to mention, you can, with a good enough hand, have this guy plus this, plus a Mara Jade, and just straight up lock your opponent out of the game. Mara Jade, the Ice Jade Dragon, is a stupid card. Basically, came out of the new structure deck, and what it says is that, hey, I'm a quick effect banish every 2 turns. So basically, it banishes, and then your opponent gets 1 turn to not get banished, and then it banishes again. But if you're playing this in pure Branded Despia, well, they just resurrect him, and he's back to go. And he also has the effect if your opponent removes him from the field. Doesn't matter, they kaiju him, banish him, blow him up. He will self-destruct your opponent's field, which is stupid. The only way to get around him, his whole blow up, is by returning him back to the extra deck because he's no longer face up. I believe that works on him. I also maybe banishing face down. I think that also works on him. But if he gets banished or sent to grave by any means, he is blowing up your opponent during the end phase, which is stupid. Next, we have 2 Lebellions. Lebellion's just a great extender. It basically helps you get into Mara Jade. When it's fusion summon, you discard 1 card, and then you fusion summon by shuffling back in the deck. It recycles back your Fallen of Albaz's, and it's just a really good fusion. Next, we have Albion, the Branded Dragon. This guy is so important to your deck. Not only is he one of the best targets to send off Mara Jade, because Mara Jade has to send an extra deck card to the graveyard to banish. Because when this card's in the graveyard, it was centered this turn. It adds, I believe, a branded spell or trap. If I'm correct, yeah, it adds a branded spell, or it sets it. So it gets you another branded fusion, which is awesome. Not to mention, this card also does what Lebellion does, where instead of shuffling them back in the deck, it banishes stuff from the graveyard, the fusion summon. So it's just a really great card, and the deck would not work without him. Next, we have Splendid, the Iron Dasher. It's honestly just a super poly target, which in this case would be a Fallen of Albaz target. Also, when this card's sent to grave, it has all the effects that are shared between these 3, where basically you get to add or special summon a Fallen of Albaz card from deck. That's the whole point of these. These are just super poly targets for these guys, and yeah, really good cards. They're just good dumping fodder. And finally, 2 Protection Whelp of Destruction Sword. To link to, you never really go into this now with the branded because they lock into fusions. But if you open up a weird hand where you can't get into branded fusion, this guy just helps you ensure the Buster lock. Because when this card is link summoned, it sends a Destruction Sword to grave, which is really important. And then the special summons a Buster Blader from deck, which is really, really strong. No, wait, special summon 1 Buster Blader from hand. My apologies. And I believe it also has a battle phase effect. At the end of battle phase, if your opponent controls no monsters, you can target 1 Buster Blader that you control that did not declare an attack, and target 1 Buster Blader monster you control that did not declare an attack. Inflict damage. It does battle damage. This never comes up. It's a flex spot. You can take it out because you're honestly just making the fusions and you're synchroing on your opponent's turn. So yeah, it's a really cool deck. I'll show you a quick combo. Oh, and a quick side note, I just bought this card. I just realized how stupid this is for the branded Buster Blader archetype. where basically this guy says, hey, yeah, I'm super poly for all dragon monsters. And guess what? This guy's turning all your opponent's monsters into dragons. So yeah, you can super poly the whole board now. This guy didn't attack twice. This guy's stupid for this deck. Like I said, any way to get to the trap card and any way to get to Branded Fusion is Buster Lock plus Marigade. So yeah, this deck's crazy now. And now you have a super poly target that says, oh, your monster's all dragons. Let's just fusion them all away and make this guy. And let's just go for game. Yeah, I forgot to mention him because I just got him before this, right after recording. And yeah, this guy's stupid. He's definitely going on the thumbnail. Definitely get this card. Alright, back to the combos. Alright, so on to the main combo of the deck. All you need for this combo is these two cards, Brand Fusion and a way to get to the trap card. In this case, we're going to use Buster Whelp the Destruction Sword. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to normal summon said Branded Whelp with Destruction Sword. Branded Whelp is then going to add to hand a Prologue of Destruction Sword. And like there, our combo is already almost complete. We're going to set said Destruction Sword. We're then going to activate Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is then going to send from our deck to grave because, I don't know why I was looking at my extra deck there, from our deck to grave, two materials that ultimately helps you get into Lubellion in this case. So we're going to send Fawn of Albaz and we're going to send a Buster Whelp because Buster Whelp is a light. We can also send the other dude, who I believe is a dark. We can also send Buster's Destruction Sword, but in this case, we're just going to send these, light and dark. And we're going to fusion summon. Actually, no, I think Lubellion needs a dark. So in this scenario, we actually do need to get Destruction Sword here because I think Lubellion actually specifically requests a dark monster. This will then fusion summon out our Lubellion. Yep, one dark monster and a Fawn of Albaz. Lubellion's effect will then activate to then discard one random card. Doesn't matter in this case, we'll just discard some random card. And then we will then shuffle back the Fawn of Albaz and the Lubellion into the deck to then special summon a Marigade. Alright, so there you go. Combo has already completed. Buster Whelp is alive. This is what we discard, doesn't really matter. Yeah, and this is the whole combo basically. It also helps to discard the dragon. Keep that in mind because the fusion for Buster Bladers only says I believe it says a dragon monster and yeah, right here, a dragon type monster and a Buster Blader. So this works. We don't have to banish this guy for this combo. All right, so let's do it. Now, turn ends, right? They go. Your opponent goes. You activate Prologue. Prologue will then send from deck to grave. It will send a Buster Blader and a, what's it called? Destruction Sword of Memories. To then special summon out the Synchro on your opponent's turn. That says all your opponent's monsters are dragons. And then Buster Destruction Sword will then banish itself to then fusion summon. Alright, you banish this card from your graveyard, fusion summon using monsters from the extra by banishing the material. So then we'll just banish these two to then summon out the old Buster dude. So now your opponent has to deal with a banish. We still have two cards in hand, by the way. And every time they summon a monster, it's going to be put in defense mode, and they're all dragons. And it's just going to keep boosting this guy up. And that's the whole basic combo down. You end on a really two powerful boss monsters and a floodgate. Two cards in hand. You only had to do, what, two cards to do the combo? It was just a way to get to Prologue and a way to get to Branded Fusion. It's a really consistent deck, and I highly recommend it. If you're looking for a cheap version of Branded Despia and you don't want to spend so much on the extra deck, because as you notice, we don't have the expensive branded cards. We don't have Masquerade and what's it called? What's that guy? Chimera Dragon in this build. You don't need them because we're not playing branded in red to fusion something on your opponent's turn. The traps do it for us, and that's all you need for this deck profile. You guys have a wonderful day. Take this to your locals and tell me how you do. It's a very powerful deck, and as always, take care. Don't do anything stupid. See ya.